Hello and welcome to the very first Ford on Sports podcast. I am Austin Ford and I'm here to give you my takes on sports. Today we have the NFL mock draft. I'm excited for this. Thank you for tuning in. Let's kick it right into gear. Let's start it off with the first pick. We have the Cincinnati Bengals, and I think everybody knows exactly what the Bengals are going to do here with this pick. The Bengals, I'm sorry, Andy Dalton, he ain't the guy. He ain't the guy. Top of the draft, you got Joe Burrow, the Heisman winner, quarterback at LSU. I mean, there's been some minor rumors that the Bengals might be possibly interested in trading this pick away. The only team I really think that could possibly acquire this pick out of them would be the Dolphins, but then again, I don't think the Dolphins would be willing to give up all the assets to get to this pick, because I think the Dolphins are going to feel a little complacent with where they're at. I feel like if the Dolphins were to trade up, they'd have to pair maybe an offensive lineman with the 5th and the 27th pick. I do not think that's going to happen, though. I believe the Bengals will end up using the pick, and I think everybody is going to be pretty much correct in assuming that Joe Burrow is going to be the guy. The only one knock on Joe Burrow I have is he only has one good year of college football, which was last year when he won the Heisman. But I don't discredit him for anything. I've been saying it since about game 2 or 3 of last season with LSU. He made that LSU offense into something it's never been before. LSU, I mean, yes, they do have 3 more than likely NFL receivers, but LSU was never really a great offense. Sure, they had some decent players here and there, like a Leonard Fournette and Odell, but it never was what it was last year, and they absolutely demolished good defenses. And I think Joe Burrow was a big part of that, and I think Joe Burrow can continue doing that in the NFL. The only problem with the Bengals are they do not have anybody offensively outside of Joe Mixon to really brag about. So in this draft, you're going to have to focus about getting another receiver here or there. I mean, Boyd's okay. John Ross, if he can stay healthy, could be a decent option. But you definitely going to focus on getting some playmakers around Joe Burrow. The next pick, the guy, well, I'm not even going to say the guy yet. The Washington Redskins hold the second pick. I don't see them trading this pick at all. They're a really solid defense. They have a good, strong front seven. I wouldn't worry about the rest of it. If you can get to the quarterback, your defense is going to be successful 9 times out of 10, because that causes the quarterback to make a mistake, throw the ball too far, throw the ball too short. That leads to interceptions. You don't need lockdown corners if you have a great front seven, and I think adding one more premier pass rusher to that front seven could do wonders for this team and possibly leverage them into a spot where they could be playoff contenders because of how good that defense is going to be. And that is Chase Young, defensive end at Ohio State. Chase Young, to me, is the best player in the draft. He gets to the quarterback. He's very fast. He can get through the tackles. He can hit the quarterback. He can hit the run. He can split the gap. I love everything about Chase Young. I really think if you can get a guy like Chase Young at the second pick rather than the first pick, I think it's a home run. I think it's a home run hit. Chase Young is going to be a superstar. I have no doubt in my mind when I say that. I believe Chase Young is 100% going to be a superstar in the NFL. I'm not saying he's just going to be a Pro Bowler. I think Chase Young's going to be one of those guys you look at and in 4 or 5 years you say he's a top 10 defensive end in the league. Chase Young is that good. Next, we got the Detroit Lions. Now, this morning, there's been some rumblings, same thing with the Redskins, but there's been some rumblings about the Lions possibly trading out their pick. And I've heard the Dolphins being thrown around. I've heard the Chargers being thrown. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. The Lions, they're in a position right now that they just lost Darius Slay. Their corner situation's not the best. I've seen some where they have them taking quarterbacks. I don't know why. You got Matt Stafford, but the Lions, I don't understand why they would trade out of this pick unless it's to get more assets and still hope for the guy I'm taking here. But it's been reported that the Lions are in love with Jeffrey Okudah out of Ohio State, defensive back. Once again, he's a player. I think he could be a star in this league. Um, he's not the best corner we've seen come out of college, but he's real solid. But I don't think anybody's going to be able to make a trade to move up to swap picks with the Lions, whether it be the Chargers or the Dolphins or somebody we don't expect. But Detroit at the end of this draft, I'm going to go out and predict Detroit, whether they trade down or stay and take with the third pick. Either way, they're not going to move out of a position where they're not going to get Jeffrey Okudah. I think Jeffrey Okudah is completely sold, or they're completely sold on Jeffrey Okudah, and I don't think they're going to risk trading out of a spot that they feel comfortable that Jeffrey Okudah will be there. All right, next we got the New York Giants, the football Giants. Dave Gettleman, we know how he likes his big burly guys. He likes the defensive lineman. He likes the offensive lineman. I'm sorry, Giants fans. It's not a flashy pick, but you just got Daniel Jones last year. He's the young quarterback. He needs to be protected. You got to go with the best offensive tackle in the entire draft, and that is Jedrick Wills out of Alabama. It's very hard-nosed. He'll get in there. He'll block. He'll be a nice physical specimen. He's not going to be able to be as finessive, if you know what I'm trying to say, but he can get some pancake blocks here and there. He'll be a real solid option to put with Daniel Jones and give Daniel Jones some extra time so he can get it to one of their receivers that they might be drafting in round 3 or round 4. But I wouldn't worry about any playmakers right here. There's only one that I would consider, and I don't even think he's a top 5 pick based on need. I think 100% he's a top 5 talent in the draft, but I just don't see him going in the top 5 at receiver. I think Jedrick Wills is best on the board right there for the needs that they're going to have, and Dave Gettleman seems to be one of those guys that he's not going to try to impress you with some flashy pick. And I'm 100% down to see Jedrick Wills go there. Next, we got a trade. The Dolphins, I think the Dolphins are tricking everybody. The Dolphins have been saying for a while that they don't see Tua Tagovailoa as a home run prospect. That's correct. They probably don't. You know why? Because he's a grand slam for them. He's a grand slam. Bottom of the 9th, grand slam for Miami. They know exactly what the Chargers want. So they've been playing this whole minute or minuscule thing where they're going to act like they're not really sold on Tua. I think that's the whole gimmick here. I think they're sold on Tua. And I have them finessing the Chargers. The Chargers are going to believe they're going to take Herbert. And the Chargers, we know the Chargers love Herbert. They're going to trade with the Chargers. They're going to get a 3rd round pick, the 71st pick in the draft. They're going to get a 5th rounder, the 151st pick, and they're also going to get the 6th pick. Just to move up one spot. We've seen it before. The Bears did it. I'm wearing the shirt now. It's not a situation that a lot of teams like to be in, but if you are sold on your guy, you're going to do what it takes to get your guy. And I think the Chargers, they're going to grow impatient. They're going to be sitting on eggshells. They're going to be looking out there, and they're going to be like, the Miami might take Justin, man. They might take Justin. We got to trade up and get him before they snag him. I think the Dolphins are going to take that deal. I think that is more likely than a trade up with the Giants or the Lions, because the Giants and the Lions are more than likely going to ask for a little bit more than what Miami might. They might ask for both the Chargers' third and fourth round picks or something like of that nature. I think you get a little more of a discount with the Dolphins because the Dolphins, they know exactly what they want. They know you want that, and they're at the end of the day, they just want to one up you, get some stuff out of you, let you get your guy. Even though at the end of the day, they're gonna get their guy. And I have with the 6th pick, the Miami Dolphins selecting Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback out of Alabama. Um, it's a real good pick here for the Dolphins. The Dolphins here, like I said, they're pulling an old trick out of the bag, finessing a team behind them so that they can move up and get Justin Herbert because they were sold on him and they're sold on Tua. That's why they're playing this whole game. Tua, obviously, he comes with some concerns as he has some injury history. We all know he wasn't able to finish off last season with the hip, something that could come back up later. Some people were thinking it might affect his stock. He's still a top 10 pick in this draft. The thing about Tua is he's either a boom or he's a bust, and the Dolphins are 100% in the market for a boom or bust guy. Tua is either going to be a superstar or he is just going to be another name on the payroll that he gets hurt and never amounts to much. With Tua, the only thing hindering himself is his own body. If he can stay healthy, I think Tua is going to be a very solid quarterback in the NFL. He's a lefty, not many lefties in the NFL, so the Dolphins will have that advantage going into next season with Tua. Next, we have the 7th overall pick going to the Carolina Panthers. Here, there's only a few things I could really think you could do. You could go receiver, possibly. I highly doubt that's the case. You could, if a quarterback drops, you could go that route. You could take Derek Brown, but I have them taking the second best player in overall talent in my book, and that is Isaiah Simmons. I have him listed as a linebacker / safety. He can do pretty much everything on defense. He's out of Clemson. He's very solid. The kid, they just lost Luke Kuechly. I think he can come in and be an easy, great replacement for him. I think he ran like a 4.4 on the 40. He can cover anywhere on the field. He's a coverage linebacker. He can get to the quarterback. He's a very smart player. I think he will blow your expectations. I think he'll be a very solid replacement for Luke Kuechly, and I would even go this far to say he might be on Luke Kuechly's level of stardom at the end of his career. Because Isaiah Simmons, to me, I mean, he's a jack of all trades. You can fit him anywhere. I've said it while talking about Isaiah Simmons. He sort of reminds me of Jabril Peppers coming out of college. Jabril Peppers was a jack of all trades. The only difference with him is he was smaller, and a lot of teams were knocking him on that because they didn't think he'd be able to play linebacker, so they didn't really know what to do with him there. And then he was too small to play safety, so he was in college. He was a jack of all trades. But Isaiah Simmons, he's big. He's a jack of all trades. He reminds me so much of Jabril Peppers. He's a fast linebacker / safety / whatever you want him to be. Isaiah Simmons at the end of this draft is going to be either number 1 or number 2 in terms of most talent in this year's class. It's a jump ball between him and Chase Young. I think Chase Young is the best player in this draft, but you can make a case for Isaiah Simmons. If you ask me, Isaiah Simmons is a real solid guy. Plus, if you have Isaiah Simmons on the board at pick 7, are you really gonna pass up on him? I mean, there's no way you can pass up on Isaiah Simmons, and if you do, you're absolutely foolish. I mean, anybody after you would be glad to get Isaiah Simmons. I would, if I'm the Cardinals and somehow Isaiah Simmons is on the board, I don't care who went in front of him. I have a big old grin on my face. I'm forgetting all my positional needs, and I'm saying, you know what? I'm taking the best player available because Isaiah Simmons is going to amount to something in this league. With the 8th overall pick, we just talked about him, the Arizona Cardinals. Here, It's a very similar situation to what I said about the Giants. I could see a scenario where they go receiver since the receiving core is not the best. And obviously Kingsbury loves Kyler Murray, so you want to give him as much weapons as possible. But one thing about weapons, you also need somebody to give Kyler some time to get the ball to those weapons. He's getting sacked way too much. He's a mobile quarterback. He should not be getting sacked as much as he did last year. I got the Arizona Cardinals addressing their issue right here with Tristan Wirfs out of Iowa, offensive lineman. I think it's a real solid pick. Tristan Wirfs at one point was my top offensive lineman on the board. But it's really been between him and Jedrick Wills. I really think the Cardinals are in a position that whoever doesn't get drafted before, they're going to be in a position where it's either Tristan Wirfs or Jedrick Wills. It just matters who gets drafted before their pick, and I think Jedrick Wills will be the one to get drafted before, and then the Cardinals are going to end up taking Tristan Wirfs. But if Tristan Wirfs gets drafted before Jedrick Wills, could easily fit into the Cardinals' plans. I really don't see a scenario where the Cardinals go anywhere outside of offensive line. They could trick me. They could go like a Jerry Jeudy, or maybe put a little bit too much investment into the combine and go Henry Ruggs. But I really don't think they'll be that risky. I think they'll get their offensive lineman, get someone to block for Kyler Murray, allow Kyler Murray to become something special. You got to give him the proper assets to do that, and that comes with a good O-line and some good receivers. I think you address those needs early in the draft, and you'll have a good team next year. The Bears, the shirt I'm wearing, they don't do that kind of stuff. They don't address the offensive line. We had a horrible offensive line. We had a horrible receiving core outside of Allen Robinson. Don't get me wrong, I love Anthony Miller, but we had a horrible receiving core. We dropped way too many passes. And I think the Cardinals are in a situation that you got to build the front first, then you got to get some receivers, and then you're setting Kyler Murray up for success. That's how you can't when you get a young quarterback, you have to set them up for success or else they're going to fail, just like how, as of right now, Mitchell Trubisky's failing. You can't have them put into a situation that's not favorable and then expect them to be able to do everything. If you don't have the receivers, you don't have the offensive lineman to get the job done, then you're not going to be good. And that's the same case with Kyler Murray. You got to get the pieces around him to be good in order for him to be good. And I've been pretty consistent in my few years of doing mock drafts. If you have a young quarterback, the guy I'm going to predict you to get is going to be an offensive lineman. Because you got to protect your young guy so he can develop properly. And I hope, for Kyler Murray's sake, that he is able to get a good offensive lineman here in this draft. Maybe get a Denzel Mims second round. Maybe get a Devin Duvernay 4th, 5th round. And you can build off some of those pieces and have a good career with those guys. Next, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars at pick 9. Right here, I just have them going best player available. I've heard some rumors saying they might want Javon Kinlaw, but you just lost Calais Campbell. You're more than likely trading Yannick Ngakoue. Obviously, with his back and forth with Tony Khan on Twitter yesterday, I'm going to go off on a limb and say Yannick Ngakoue is probably going to be one of those guys that might get traded on draft day for like a 3rd round pick or something like that. I wouldn't. There's no way somebody gets a 1st round pick for Yannick Ngakoue. No way. Did you not see what he did on Twitter? He has character concerns to the max. I would not trust it. But Jaguars, best player on the board is Derek Brown, defensive tackle out of Auburn. Really solid guy. I think he'll feel the whole of Calais Campbell very, very smoothly. He'll be a nice piece to start building that Jags defense back up, and I think they could be real solid next year. The Jags are always a hit or miss team when it comes to having good seasons, and I think next year could be a hit. You do need some help offensively, but I think Derek Brown is probably the best answer for your problems. With the 10th pick, we got a trade. I have the Browns trading the pick to the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos have been interested in trading with both the Cardinals and the Browns leading up into this draft. When I heard the news, I knew exactly what they were doing. There's no way you're jumping up 5 picks, 7 picks, whichever one you pick, and you don't know exactly what you're doing. Everybody thought they're probably going with Henry Ruggs. They might go with a CeeDee Lamb if he's on the board. They don't have many needs. Their offensive line's decent. They could possibly use a quarterback if they want to give up on Drew Lock. Their defense is good enough. The Broncos, I'm not really sold on Fangio as a coach. Defense coordinator, yeah, great. But the Broncos, you're in a situation now that you have to trade up, and there's only one reason you're trading up in this draft if you're the Denver Broncos. It's not to get one of the top linemen. It's not to get a quarterback, because obviously quarterbacks are out of here. Derek Brown's off the board. There's no Isaiah Simmons. There's no need to get any of those steals this late because they're already off the board. You're trading up to get Jerry Jeudy. That's the only reason the Broncos are going to trade up in this year's draft, is to get Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy, to me, is the top receiver to come out since Amari Cooper. Yes, I've seen some guys go earlier than him. I have Jerry Jeudy falling to 10. But Jerry Jeudy coming out of college, very solid. Amari Cooper came out in 2015. There hasn't been any big names going first round in the last 5 or so years. I think Jerry Jeudy can finally break the spell, being a first-round guy that's going to really pan out, really be something solid at the top of the draft. He's out of Alabama. He's had many big games. I really don't see how if Denver's going to trade up, there's no way they're going to pass on Jerry Jeudy if he's on the board. There is absolutely no way, and it's just not going to happen. It is not going to happen. If the Broncos, for some reason, find themselves sitting at their monitors with the pick in their hands, and Jerry Jeudy is one of the names on the board, they are 100% taking Jerry Jeudy. The best receiver in this year's class, by far. It's not close. Bleacher Report saying Henry Ruggs will be 4th, or saying that CeeDee Lamb might go earlier than... No. Jerry Jeudy is the top receiver. There's no debate. There's no questions. Get over it. It is Jerry Jeudy. Pick 11, we got the New York Jets. Now, this one I'm really nervous on because I don't know how much off-the-field things will affect this pick. But the Jets, like I said, young quarterbacks, they need some help. You got to get the offensive line built up before you get the receivers. You have Robbie Anderson, who's a solid piece. I wouldn't focus on receiver just yet. There's some good. The receiver draft is deep, but you're sitting here with a top offensive lineman on the board and Mekhi Becton out of Louisville. If I'm the Jets, I am putting aside the failed drug test. I am not worrying about that because you're getting a solid player. You have to address that kind of stuff after the draft. Get Mekhi Becton straight and let him know that you're taking a chance on him. He's got to put all that beside him. He's never failed a drug test in his life until the combine. I don't know what he did or what he took or whatever, whether it be PEDs or what, but you can't let that hinder your spot on Mekhi Becton. Laramie Tunsil came out good, and there was a video of him hitting the ball right before the draft, and he's coming out good. He's looking pretty good. He had a good season. He got traded to Houston, looking really solid. But you can't let this be another situation where you're going to let something off the field hinder this. The talent is there in Mekhi Becton. He's big. He's a big guy. He's a brute. He's gonna knock you on the ground. He's not necessarily gonna be able to keep up with an outside edge rusher, but in the middle, you're not getting through Becton. If you're running straight at Becton, you're not getting through him. The kid is gonna be good as long as he can stay on the field. And the Jets, you need to take this chance. You gotta protect Sam Darnold. You gotta get Mekhi Becton straight. From what I heard, Beckton isn't a guy that necessarily will be doing the stupid crap off the field. But a failed drug test is definitely a red flag, and hopefully the Jets don't put too much stock into that test, because you got to get the solid player here. You can't miss. You could take an Andrew Thomas here, but I think Mekhi Becton is the better pickup. And next we got the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders are a team that kind of shocked us last year. Last year they took Cleveland Ferrell. You kind of wondering what are they doing, but then they picked up Josh Jacobs, real solid pickup. And then their team was starting to pan out. We're like, okay, we see what you're doing now. We see what you're doing. And the Raiders are a team I think next year could make a playoff run. They're a really solid team. I'm still sold on Derek Carr. I don't think it's that big of a deal with Derek Carr. Some people like him, some people don't like him. I don't think Derek Carr is part of the issue. Your receiving core last year was definitely not anything to brag about. You have a decent defense. Maybe you could fix the defense a little bit, but there's no way you don't help out Derek Carr. Give Derek Carr one more last chance. You got the running back in Josh Jacobs, and now you're getting an opportunity to get a great receiver. If you watched any college football this year, you're going to know the name. CeeDee Lamb out of Oklahoma, receiver. You've probably seen him on some highlights. He's a very exciting player. He can get free very quickly. For me, it was real shocking at his combine. That's why I don't let the combine speak too much, because he ran a 4.5 at the combine. He didn't have burner speed, but every time you watch him in an Oklahoma game, he gets open. CeeDee Lamb gets open, and he catches the ball, and he is able to juke and finesse and backpedal, do whatever to get into that end zone. CeeDee Lamb, a very elusive player. I love the pick here. He can make a 5-yard catch into a 40-yard catch in a heartbeat, and that's exactly what a Raiders team like this needs. You got the running back, you got the workhorse in Josh Jacobs, and I really don't see how taking a guy like CeeDee Lamb, who can be first off, he's going to be an exciting player. He's going to get jersey sales. He's going to be one of those hyped up players, kind of like an Odell, but in my opinion, CeeDee Lamb's a little better at doing stuff than Odell. But CeeDee Lamb will be definitely an exciting player for Raiders fans to watch. And then you got Josh Jacobs to rely on, and that's making a real solid offense for that Raiders team. If you ask me, Jerry Jeudy would be the replacement for Amari Cooper that they gave up a few years ago. But CeeDee Lamb, going to be their best receiver since Amari Cooper. I think CeeDee Lamb will be good. I don't know if he'll be Amari Cooper good, but CeeDee Lamb will definitely be a fine guy to pick here at pick 12. Next, we have the 13th pick, and it belongs to the San Francisco 49ers. They got it from Indianapolis via trade. And I'm glad they did, because I honestly did not know what to do with the guy I have going here. I didn't know really who would get him. But I do now. So obviously the 49ers, they kind of starting with a whole new defensive thing now. Kind of starting to back up defensively. And I won't worry. If I'm the 49ers GM, I'm not worrying. You have your quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo. You have your running back situation figured out. You got some decent receivers. Receiver might be in play if Jerry Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb's on the board. But the draft is deep at receiver. You can get a guy like Denzel Mims, maybe a T. Higgins late in the first round, early second round, if you want to use your 31st pick, or if you want to use a second round pick on defensive end. I mean, there's some stars there, but you could wait. Corners, it's a decent corner draft. You don't have many stars, but you have some very solid corners in this year's draft. Offensive line, deep draft. You don't need to worry about it. What you do need to worry about is getting a defensive tackle, one of the best in this year's draft, and that's Javon Kinlaw out of South Carolina. I don't see how it's a bad pick at all. I don't think Kinlaw is going to get the love he should get in this draft, just the way everything's going to pan out. There's going to be a lot of teams taking other kind of players, other kind of potential around him, and passing up on a guy like Kinlaw. I think he's going to be a prized possession. You probably won't be focusing too much on defensive tackle because you got teams ahead of them that are going to be focusing on fixing the quarterback issue, or focusing on getting an offensive lineman to protect their quarterback, or focusing on getting your star receiver finally. And that's going to let Javon Kinlaw fall all the way to 13th. I think Javon Kinlaw is a top 10 talent in this year's draft. I love Javon Kinlaw's game. Put him in San Francisco. He's going to get to quarterbacks. He's going to be a nice guy. He's going to eat up tackles. I really love him. If I'm gonna bet, he's definitely going to be a guy that's going to be there at the 13th pick for the 49ers. And I would be shocked if they don't take a chance on Javon Kinlaw, because I think Javon Kinlaw's game is going to speak volumes for whatever team he goes to. He's going to be like kind of like an Akeem Hicks. You feel me? Akeem Hicks, able to eat up some tackles, lets Khalil Mack do his job. Akeem Hicks went out this season. Khalil Mack didn't have as great of a season as he had the year before. Just for an example from the Bears, but I think Javon Kinlaw could be that kind of guy. Next, the one you've all been waiting for. You see the hat? It's a Patriots hat. And we're talking about a Patriot. We're not talking about the Patriots. We are talking about a Patriot. Tom Brady. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay Brady. They're in the most interesting spot in this year's draft, if you ask me. Because you just got the best quarterback of all time. I didn't stutter. The best quarterback of all time. And they got plenty of weapons. They got Godwin. They got Mike Evans. They got O.J. Howard. The only thing I could really say you might want to help out is maybe you get a Jonathan Taylor in the second round. Maybe you get a Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Maybe you get another running back. Maybe you trade back into the first round and get DeAndre Swift. But there's only two ways you can go here. If you're the Buccaneers, you're putting all your eggs in one basket. It is this year you're going for it. You're not worried about the defense. The only thing you should be worried about this season is getting Tom Brady all the help he needs, and that's going to be getting a third receiver, whether it be a slot guy, probably in the second, third round. Getting some offensive linemen, getting another running back. You gotta sell it. You gotta focus on the offense here. If you're Tampa Bay, you gotta go all in on Tom. You just got the best quarterback of all time. The only thing you can do is make him have an easier life. He's old. He's not gonna be able to. I mean, he's already not a mobile guy, but he's not gonna be able to do some of the stuff he's been doing. But you got to make the win now moves, and the win now moves might go a little underappreciated, but you got to get a solid offensive lineman, and that is Andrew Thomas, a guy that is beginning of this college football season. He was the top offensive lineman on the board out of Georgia. Kind of fell through the cracks a little here. I don't think he regressed at any point. But obviously you got guys like Mekhi Becton and Jedrick Wills and Tristan Wirfs. They just had that much of a leap. I wouldn't put it against Andrew Thomas that he fell from the first to the fourth. Nothing about him is bad. He's a very solid offensive lineman. I think he's probably the most well-rounded offensive lineman in this year's draft. He's gonna be good. Obviously, being at Georgia, he's used to playing some of these elite defensive ends, elite edge rushers, elite defensive linemen. You gotta hold some value at that. You gotta hold some value in Brady, and the only way you're gonna protect Brady is if you get that offensive line to be one of the best in the NFL, and that all starts with the first round, with the first time you're picking. You gotta take Andrew Thomas. You gotta show your investment in Tom Brady. Don't get a receiver yet. Third, fourth round, feel free. Second round, probably another offensive lineman, maybe a running back if DeAndre Swift or Jonathan Taylor, whoever is there. But you got to be smart. You got to build around Brady. That's the way you're going to win this season. Next, we got the 15th pick. As we already discussed, Denver has traded up with the Broncos. So the Broncos traded their pick away to the Browns. Or Denver traded to the Browns, up with the Browns. And the Browns traded back with Denver. But anyways, the Browns are sitting here. I think at the end of the day, the Browns are going to be a little disappointed here. Obviously, you go a guy like C.J. Henderson, K'Lavon Chaisson, Christian Fulton, whoever. Henry Ruggs, maybe, if you want to give up on Odell and actually trade him like you've been rumored to. I think at the end of the day, you're going to be very disappointed at 15. And you're going to be in a situation where you're going to have to take next best. And that's not going to be just next best available player. It's next best for your fit. And for your fit, your needs are you got to find a way to block for Baker Mayfield. You got to find a way. You're not great at doing it. You missed out on Mekhi Becton. You traded out of that spot. You didn't expect Mekhi Becton to go. He failed the drug test. You thought he might slip through the cracks and be there at 15. He's not there at 15, and you're going to be disappointed at the end of this. And I think you have to go next best, and that's a center out of Michigan, Cesar Ruiz. He is the next best offensive lineman on the board. I'm not 100% sold on him being a top 20 pick, but I think if the Browns do trade and Mekhi Becton goes, you're going to have to still address the need whether you like it or not. You're just going to have to take Cesar Ruiz, maybe 10 or so picks earlier than what you should have. But I don't see anybody wanting to trade up into the 15th spot and the Browns doing a double drop. Just don't see it happening. I think at the end of the night, Cesar Ruiz is going to end up being a Brown, and you're not going to be upset about it, but you're just going to be frustrated because you knew you could have done better. I mean, Cesar Ruiz is a very solid player out of Michigan, but I missing out on a Mekhi Becton is going to hurt. It's going to sting. And you also just missed out on Andrew Thomas by one pick. One pick. You were close. But not enough for him to actually go to you. Next, we got the Atlanta Falcons. They got him taken. I got them taking a corner out of Florida, C.J. Henderson. To me, he reminds me a lot of a Stephon Gilmore kind of guy, except Stephon Gilmore seems to get more interceptions. Saw Stephon Gilmore pick 6 against the Bengals this year live. But yeah, Henderson, he's a lockdown kind of guy. He's not going to let you catch the ball very often. He's a bumper run corner. I think he's definitely a guy that could see a late rise and possibly go to a Cardinals, maybe as early as pick 8. But the way the draft pans out in my scenario here, C.J. Henderson's on the board, pick 16 for the Falcons. You don't pass up on C.J. Henderson. You do not do it if you're the Falcons. You just lost Trufant. And I'm going to argue that Henderson next season is probably going to be more productive than what Trufant was. That's just how it is. C.J. Henderson is going to be a star. He has the lockdown ability, and I think you put a lot of stock into that. And he could easily see a late day of rise on people's draft boards. People are going to look and be like, hold on. Well, we were looking at Tristan Wirfs, but he's already off the board because for some reason the Panthers took him. Isaiah Simmons is off the board, and we don't need Justin Herbert because for some reason he fell. And C.J. Henderson, we need a corner. He's really good. He's a lockdown. He's not going to let many people catch the ball. Let's take C.J. Henderson at pick 8. I think it could happen. C.J. Henderson, I think I can really see C.J. Henderson going anywhere from 8 to 20. He's good. He's good. It just depends on what the teams around them prioritize, and I really want to see C.J. Henderson. Selfishly, I want the Bears to trade up for C.J. Henderson because him and Kyle Fuller. Selfishly, I want to see I want to see the Patriots trade up for C.J. Henderson, but they need a quarterback. because obviously Tom Brady's my favorite of all time, and he made me a Patriots fan, and I live in Illinois, so Bears fan. But I would love to see him and Stephon Gilmore too. But C.J. Henderson, you don't pass on him if you're the Falcons. You do not do it. That would be a sin. That would be a sin now, wouldn't it? It would. Next, we got pick 17, belonging to the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones. We know he likes to be unconventional at times. Jerry Jones, don't be unconventional. Don't do it. Don't do it, Jerry. I like Christian Fulton here. I like Christian Fulton. Fulton's a guy that he's seen some interesting projections. He's been in the first round. He's been in the second round. It really depends who you like more at corner, whether you have some guys like a Jeff Gladney and a Jalen Johnson and AJ Terrell, whoever. No Igbenogany. But either way, I like Christian Fulton here. Fulton, he's a player. He really doesn't have a definitive spot in this year's draft. He really doesn't. I could not tell you for sure that Christian Fulton will be a first-round pick, a second-round pick. I cannot tell you. But with the loss of Byron Jones, you lost your top corner this past offseason. And you just missed out on C.J. Henderson. And you got to get that cornerback situation fixed. And the next best available guy, at least for me, is Christian Fulton. He's a very solid corner. Take Christian Fulton, Jerry. Take Christian Fulton, Jerry. Next, we got the Miami Dolphins at pick 18. All right, Miami fans, congratulations. You got your quarterback in Tua. And let's fix some other needs. What are some other needs you have? Well, you need some linebackers. And one of the best in this year's draft. Now, the only problem I have with this is he's drawing comparisons to Leonard Floyd, and Leonard Floyd is, being a Bears fan, he can be hit or miss. He has some good games, he has some bad games. And that's definitely the same with this guy. K'Lavon Chaisson out of LSU, he's a good defensive leader. Don't get me wrong, he's a really good defensive leader. He has all the abilities you want on an edge rusher. The only problem with him is sometimes he does not utilize himself to the fullest. He can be dominant sometimes, and at the other times he can be silenced by an offensive line and not do anything for a whole game. That's the same thing with Leonard Floyd, basically. But Leonard Floyd definitely had more of those silence games and impact games, and I hope K'Lavon Chaisson has some of those impact games, because I really love K'Lavon Chaisson when he does get there. He has a very high football IQ. He has a very high ceiling. I love K'Lavon Chaisson here at 18. I think K'Lavon Chaisson is a top 15 guy, but not at the same time, because he can be silenced. The Dolphins, I've already said it. You took Tua because you wanted boomer bust. Why not stick to the trend? You get another boomer bust. Hey, nobody expects you to be good next year. Get your superstars now. If you want to be good in 2-3 years, you got to take the risks now. And Tua's a risk. K'Lavon's going to be a risk. And who knows? Maybe your later pick's going to be a risk too. But take K'Lavon Chaisson out of LSU, people. I'm telling you, he's going to be special. It might take him a year or two, but I really think K'Lavon Chaisson's going to be a better version of Leonard Floyd. I'm telling you, K'Lavon Chaisson's good. Next, pick 19, we have the trade of the Las Vegas Raiders. I have them trading down with the Minnesota Vikings. And that's because they're worried. They're very worried, because the Jaguars hold pick 20. And the Jaguars might be in the market for a Henry Ruggs, a T. Higgins. The Philadelphians, they hold pick 21. They are in the market for a receiver. The Vikings want to get a jump on both teams, and they want to take their receiver. And their receiver, it's not a Jalen Reagor. It's not a T. Higgins. It is Henry Ruggs. It is Henry Ruggs. You got to fill the gap that you left when you got rid of Stephon Diggs through trade. He was the fastest on the 40. I'm not saying he's better than some of these other receivers. I'm just saying the combine speaks volumes. It can raise your draft stock. It can raise your draft stock, and it can demolish your draft stock in a very quick instant. There's no way that the Vikings see an opportunity and they trade up and they don't take Henry Ruggs. They're not going to let, I'm telling you right now, they're not going to let the Eagles pick before them. They are not going to. The Eagles are going to trade up or the Vikings are going to trade up. Because the Eagles are going to get scared that the Vikings are going to trade up. Because both teams are taking receiver in the first round. The only difference is which one is going to get their first pick of receiver. I think the Vikings are going to be willing to trade up with the Raiders and take their guy, Henry Ruggs. Next, we have the 20th pick. I said the Jaguars might be in need for a receiver, and yes, they would have been if Henry Ruggs was on the board. They don't want a Jalen Reagor. Jalen Reagor's, the only reason he rose is because of his pro day. They don't want a last-second wonder. They don't want to put investment in T. Higgins. They don't want to put investment in Denzel Mims here. They don't want to do that. What they want to do is they want to build up the defense that they've already started to build up in this year's draft. And instead of taking a Patrick Queen or AJ Epineza or Yetur Gross-Matos, you take a corner. You take Jeff Gladney out of TCU. I think Jeff Gladney, he's a very interesting player. I don't know if he will be a first-round pick, but I could see a scenario where he does, and this is the scenario where he does. But like I said, the receiver draft's deep. You might get a Justin Jefferson second round. You might get a Denzel Mims second round, and you gotta hold all those factors into your head, and you gotta realize you gotta get your top corner on the board. And I think Jeff Gladney is one of those top corners. You gotta get him because he might not be there, but that receiver class is deep. That receiver class, you can find anybody later in the draft that could be real solid for you. I'm not saying they're going to be as good as some of these earlier guys, but they could be real solid. You could get a Donovan Peoples-Jones out of Michigan. I don't even know when he's going to be picked, but you got to address the corner just because he's more than likely not going to be there. Jeff Gladney is a good corner. You got to get him. Next, we have the 21st pick, and the Philadelphia Eagles here. They are going to be more than happy. Yes, they didn't get Henry Ruggs, but were they ever really going to pick Henry Ruggs is the question. No. There's two guys here that I could see them picking. It's Denzel Mims and T. Higgins, and I have them picking the latter in T. Higgins. T. Higgins is my favorite player in this year's draft. I just love his game. He reminds me a lot of an Alshon Jeffrey. He's a big receiver. He can be fast. He'll go make some catches. He's 6'3". He ran a 4.43 on his pro day. Out of Clemson. The kid's played big games. He's made big catches. You have Alshon there. You have D-Jack there. Two guys that are experienced. D-Jack, he's getting old. Alshon, he gets injured. They can both mentor T. Higgins on the sideline and make him into a superstar. I think T. Higgins will be a superstar. He's having a late decline on draft boards. Don't pay attention to the draft boards, Philly. You're better than that. You're better than that. Take T. Higgins. Take T. Higgins. T. Higgins, I'm telling you, everything about him, to me at least, screams star. 6'3", 4'43". I've seen it on tape. I've seen him make big catches. If for some reason, just hypothetically, pick 43, he happens to be there for Ryan Payson, Chicago's pick, buddy, you better take T. Higgins. You better do it. T. Higgins is gonna be good. I'll let you all in a little secret. He's gonna be good. Alright. Next, we got the Las Vegas Raiders, since they traded with the Vikings. And the Raiders, I have them taking a very Raiders-like guy here. Linebacker. Kenneth Murray. Kenneth Murray, to me, is a very solid defensive leader. We've seen him at Oklahoma. He's very solid. He made a defense that wasn't good the year before into a very decent defense. There wasn't anything spectacular, but it was decent. And that was accredited to Kenneth Murray. He has potential to be a really solid linebacker. I don't know if he's going to be all pro levels. He might make a couple Pro Bowls, but he's very solid. Kenneth Murray, to me, he has some good physicals, man. I mean, he's really just there to fill what you guys gave up. What you gave up. Thank you, by the way, for giving me Khalil Mack. I appreciate it, you guys. But he's just there to fill the hole. I don't think he's ever going to be able to fill the hole that they left when they traded Khalil Mack. Best decision of the Raiders' lifetimes, unless you're a Raiders fan. But I really think Kenneth Murray is going to be a very decent player for him. I don't know if he'll be a superstar. I really don't think he will, but very solid player. Next we have the pick everybody has been waiting for. Bleacher Report, you people are idiots. It is not Jeremy Chinn. It is not Grant Delpit. It is not Xavier McKinney. It is not Noah Igbinoghene. It is not AJ Terrell. It is not AJ Epineza. No. Stop playing the games. Stop playing the games. Robert Kraft is a genius. Bill Belichick is a genius. They got Tom Brady. Tom Brady became the greatest of all time. They drafted Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo is looking really good in San Francisco. Whether it be because he developed behind Brady or he was just naturally good is beyond the question. They're smart enough to know what to do here. Forget Jacob Eason. Forget waiting for Jalen Hurts. Forget getting Jake Fromm in the second, third round. Forget Anthony Gordon. Forget all these guys. Take the young gun. Take the guy that necessarily didn't have a great year last year. I mean, his junior year film was much better than a senior year film. And that is Jordan Love out of Utah State. Some might say that Patriots fans should be in love with Jordan Love. The guy's going to be good. 2 years ago, you messed up. You passed on Lamar Jackson twice. You took Sony Michel, and then you traded back up, and then you passed on for an offensive lineman. It worked. It worked. But you missed on the MVP of last season in Lamar Jackson. You can't afford to miss again. Now you are desperate for a quarterback. Jarrett Stidham is not the answer. Jordan Love, year one, might not be the answer. I might struggle next year. But Jordan Love and Jarrett Stidham, QB battle, training camp, that's going to be good for both of them. I think Jordan Love's going to definitely come out on top. Jordan Love is going to start week one. Jordan Love is going to probably be around maybe somewhere around the 7-9 mark as a starting quarterback. A very solid year because the Patriots are just a well-ran team. Might somehow side in the playoffs in a weak AFC. But I think Jordan Love is your guy. Yeah, I wouldn't pass up on him. He has good arm strength. And the moment this happens, I want you to know, from the moment whoever gets drafted here at pick 23 or traded up or whoever, the moment the Patriots make their first call on this draft night and round one, if they stay in round one, which they definitely will, the moment they announce their quarterback, he forever, the entirety of his career, will be compared to Tom Brady, whether he lived up to Tom Brady, whether he filled Tom Brady's shoes, whether he filled his cleats, if you will. That's not fair to whatever quarterback goes to the Patriots, but it very well could make you a star because it could fill you. It could fill a guy like Jordan Love. Hey, I know that all these Patriots fans, all these Patriots players, all these Patriots coaches, they're used to success. They are used to Tom Brady leading them to the promised land. Playoff Brady was the name. playoff Brady was the game. Who's to say Jordan Love doesn't get fueled by that and say, you know what? Playoff love was the game. Playoff love is the game. Jordan Love, he's going to be, hopefully, at least, he's going to be fueled by people want me to be like Brady. Okay, you know what? I'm going to be a superstar. I'm down for that lifestyle. I really think Jordan Love will be a Patriot by the end of round 1. And if he's not, color me shocked. Color me shocked. I don't think Jacob Eason is their guy. I think Jordan Love is the guy. I really like Jordan Love. I think he'll be solid. Next, we have the 24th pick, the New Orleans Saints. Now, ideally here, I have them taking Kenneth Murray. Kenneth Murray is obviously off the board. You got to help out at the linebacker. Maybe maybe Queen is in the hat for getting picked here. Maybe a Yetur Gross-Matos off edge. Maybe a AJ Epineza. Stop playing games with me. Stop playing games with me. Take a cornerback. Help out your secondary. Go get AJ Terrell, cornerback out of Clemson. The one game everybody's going to knock this kid on is against LSU. Forget LSU for one moment, man. They have 3 guys. 3 guys that are going to be in the NFL as receivers. One is getting drafted this year, and he might be a first-round pick, and Justin Jefferson. And that wasn't even their best one. Jamar Chase was. You can't fault AJ Terrell for having one bad game with some lucky catches from some NFL caliber receivers. You just can't do it. It's not fair to him. It's not fair to Clemson. It's not fair to. It's just not fair. It's just not fair. You have one issue with AJ Terrell, and it's he had one bad game, and it happened to be the biggest game of his career when all the lights were on him. So obviously you're gonna notice it more. Doesn't mean he's a bad guy. He's really solid. He looks good as long as you don't watch the LSU game. And I definitely, as the Saints, I would watch the LSU game. I would break it down, help him out, tell him where he went wrong, how he did certain coverages, whatever. But don't hold investment in that, whether or not you're going to draft him. Use that as a motivation to draft him to help him fix that, because you already know he can be a good corner. We've seen it. He's had some good games. He's at a top team in the country. But you're going to hold standards on him from having one bad game against the first overall pick and 3 NFL caliber top 2 rounds. I don't know if Justin Jefferson will get in the first round. That's why I said 2 rounds. 3 guys that are going to go in the top 2 rounds of this year and next year's draft? No, don't hold that against them. It's just one bad game. One bad game. Next, we got the Minnesota Vikings. I know I had them trading, but they don't trade this pick with the other pick they used to trade up. Instead, they keep this one, and they take cornerback Jaylon Johnson out of Utah. He's a bigger corner. I like him. To me, he's a borderline first, second round guy. Don't know which one he'll be. Might be early second. But they're definitely in need of some cornerback help in Minnesota. Obviously, you no longer have Xavier Rhodes. But you got a decent receiving league in the NFC North. Not anything too spectacular. I mean, you got to guard Devontae Adams. I mean, you got to guard Marvin Jones. You might think Allen Robinson's a threat. And by the way, you should think he is a threat because Allen Robinson is a threat. But you gotta get a corner. And that just happens to be Jaylon Johnson out of Utah. To me, Jaylon Johnson's the best of the corners left. He has decent size. I like him. But you're passing up guys like Noah Igbinoghene. You're passing up Bryce Hall, Trevion Diggs, Cam Dantzler, Jeff Gladney, if he happens to still be on the board, but here he's not. But he could be an option for him. And yeah, Damon Arnett also that you're passing up on, who I'm not 100% sold on. But Vikings, I think one of those few names I just listed will be the pick here. It's just a matter of who they like more. I like Jalen Johnson more. I think Jalen Johnson's the more solid pick here. But they could easily go like a Travion Diggs out of Alabama. But I got them taking Jalen Johnson out of Utah. Pick 26, my favorite safety in this year's draft. I don't know why. People are souring on him. Miami Dolphins with the 26th pick take Grant Delpit out of LSU. Xavier McKinney. Jeremy Chin, he can tackle, but he also makes some mistakes. His coverage isn't the best. He makes reads the wrong time. Sees a running back taking a hole, cuts. He bites on the hezzy. Jeremy Chin's not 100% the best safety in this year's draft. Some people think he is. I'm not sold. His coverage isn't the greatest. He's made some wrong reads. I've watched a few games of his. I'm not exactly sure why people are putting so much stock into him. I mean, yeah, he's a combine warrior. Doesn't mean much. The film, it's decent, but there's some errors in there. And one guy that he makes some errors. He's not a great tackler. Grant Delpit, but he's great in coverage. You're getting a safety for coverage, aren't you? He's a ball hawk, isn't he? He's great at picking off the ball. He's great at batting away the ball. He's great at not letting you catch the ball. He's good all around. He's the best coverage best coverage safety in this draft. I think if he doesn't get hurt late in the year, that he could be a top 15 pick. And I don't know why people have some people completely have him going out of the first round. And pick 43, if he's there, Chicago, feel free to take him. But I'm very interested here with Grant Delpit because I think Grant Delpit could be easily a guy like Eddie Jackson. Eddie Jackson, he got hurt. I mean, Grant Delpit didn't get hurt on the level that Eddie Jackson did, but Eddie Jackson got hurt, but he was a ball hawk. He fell. He turned out to be a superstar in the league. I think Grant Delpit is very similar because he could easily be a star in this league. He has natural instincts to find where the quarterback's eyes are trailing and being able to pick off the ball. I think that should be more valued in the NFL than the tackling aspect. Yes, missing tackles is a concern, but that's why you got guys in the secondary that can help you. You got Xavier Howard. He's a decent tackler. I mean, you got to get help around him to cover his weaknesses. Once you cover those weaknesses, he's getting interceptions. He's making big plays. He's one of the reasons you're winning games, just like Eddie Jackson was for Chicago. I'm telling you, Grant Delpit's going to be something special. Next, we have the Seattle Seahawks. For the longest time, and I mean the longest time, I had them taking Yetur Gross-Matos due to his little hazing accusation incident. Whether he did it or not is beyond me. I'm not 100% sure whether he did or not. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, teams are going to look at it and be a little hesitant, just a little, even if it proves to be false, just because you could possibly be a problem for them in the future. The one guy that has no character concerns whatsoever is AJ Epineza, and I thought the Seahawks might take a chance out of Yetur Gross-Matos because they have guys in the locker room like Shaquille and Shaquem Griffin, and they got guys like Russell Wilson who are known locker room leaders. They're just not going to let them play those games. And Yetur Gross-Matos has star potential. But you have AJ Epineza on the board out of Iowa. Same thing Yetur Gross-Matos does. He's just not as great as Yetur Gross-Matos. I said it earlier in the year. Yetur Gross-Matos did some of the best pass rushing I've seen. If you go, I don't even know if I posted on Twitter or not, but if you look at, I have the text still, so if I didn't, I could prove a screenshot. But I said Yetur Gross-Matos is one of the best pass rushers in college this year. He's better than AJ Epinesa at pass rushing. He is. He can get to a quarterback very easily. The only problem I have with him is character concerns. Whether it be true or false, you still got to be a little hesitant. And for AJ Epinesa to be on the board, a very solid defensive end, same thing, edge rush or whatever. Very solid guy, same position. You know you're not going to get much character concerns out of him. He's very solid. He might not be as great, but he could be very good. You got to take that guy. You got to take the guy that you know exactly what he will be doing, that he will be on the field. It is not going to be his fault if he is off the field. Yetur Gross-Matos, there is some concern. I'm not saying Yetur Gross-Matos did. I'm not incriminating him. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just saying if you have this pick, you take the biggest green light here, and you take the guy that you know you're not going to have many issues with, and that is AJ Epinesa. Next, we have the 28th pick in this year's draft, and it belongs to the Baltimore Ravens. Yes. Yes, they take Patrick Queen. I like Patrick Queen. What I'm about to say makes it seem like I don't like Patrick Queen, but I do. Believe me, I do like Patrick Queen. I want him to go to Chicago. Why do I want everybody to go to Chicago? Because I'm a Bears fan. Queen is a really good player. I think he has some potential, but I think he's also more of a day one kind of guy. The only problem I have with him is I don't know how much potential he really has. He seems like he's already well-rounded. I don't know how much his ceiling's going to be. I feel like the Ravens are definitely a team that's going to fit the mold of just taking a real solid guy that might not get to a superstar level, but he'll be a decent guy here or there. He might be a Pro Bowler a couple years. Just a really all-around solid guy. He's not going to ever do anything to make him a superstar, but he's never going to do anything for people to look negatively on him. I think that's the kind of guy Patrick Queen is, and I think he fits that Baltimore defense seamlessly. I would love to see him there. He just kind of feels like a Baltimore defensive guy. You feel me? Everything about Patrick Queen to me screams Baltimore. He really does. He's just a rough guy. I like him. The Tennessee Titans at pick 29. With this, I have them taking yet another, well, not for them, but back-to-back well-rounded linebackers. I have them taking Zach Bond out of Wisconsin. Like I said with Patrick Queen, could be applied here with Zach Bond. He's a very solid guy. I feel like he's already really developed. I don't know how much potential you're going to get at him. He's also a day one guy. I don't really know if he'll ever be a star, but he could be a Pro Bowler here or there. But he's just the kind of guy that he's going to make other people around him look better. He's a good play call. He's good on the field. He's a good defensive leader. He made that Wisconsin defense something special last year. I'd like to see him in Tennessee, a team that they're really hit or miss on defense. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. I think Zach Bond is going to be a decent piece for them to build around. He's not going to be a star per se, but he's going to be a real solid guy for them. Oh no. The worst time to talk about ever. With the 30th pick in the 2020 NFL Online Draft with Roger Goodell. We have the Green Bay Packers taking Laviska Shenault out of Colorado, receiver. I got to watch Laviska Shenault a few times this season. Obviously, he's in the Pac-12. I will be going to the University of Oregon next year, so I did watch some Pac-12 games. He's a very good player. I think he'll be a very good second option for Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers hasn't had really a legit second option in a few years. You had Geronimo Allison last year, but that's not a legit second option. I consider him a third option. But Shenault, he's going to be a very solid complementary piece to Davante Adams. And I'd go as far to say he might be the next guy behind Davante Adams to be a star in Green Bay. Because if you look at it, Davante Adams, I don't even know how many years he has left on his contract, but once he leaves, if they're able to develop Laviska Shenault he's going to be the next Davante Adams for him. And I think that'd be a very solid guy to have next to Davante Adams. While Davante Adams is there, you have a kind of like a Davante Adams Jr. next to him. I think Laviska Shenault is going to be very good possession guy out of Colorado. Next, with the second to last pick, the 31st pick, the second pick in the draft for the 49ers, I have them taking a safety out of Alabama, Xavier McKinney. Most people have Xavier McKinney and Jeremy Chinn above Grant Delpit as the first safety off the board. But to me, coverage and ball hawking ability speaks volumes. And I take that over anything else either of these two guys can give me. McKinney is a good player, don't get me wrong. But he could be pretty inconsistent. He's either hit or miss. He struggles sometimes to stop bigger receivers because I'm getting some catches on him. I mean, everybody does at some points, but he's definitely a little more polished than Jeremy Chinn. I feel like Xavier McKinney, the game comes a little bit more naturally to Jeremy Chinn. I feel like Jeremy Chinn's kind of one of those guys that he kind of has to think before he processes. It just doesn't come as natural to Jeremy Chinn in coverage and being able to read cuts and all that stuff while running. But Xavier McKinney, I feel like it comes a little more natural to him. He's able to seek out a running back that's possibly going to make a cut. I think he's a little more polished than Jeremy Chinn. Next and last, we have the 32nd pick. We have them taken the top running back on the board in and out of Georgia, DeAndre Swift. To me, Swift is all around the best halfback in this year's draft. Obviously, you got guys like Jonathan Taylor and Clyde Edwards-Helaire that are going to be maybe late day one if the Chiefs take him, or early day two, mid day two, whatever. You have guys on this draft that are going to be good running backs. But DeAndre Swift, to me, is going to be the better one out of everyone. You got Jonathan Taylor. He's already been taking a beating. He really has. I mean, Wisconsin ran with Taylor so much last year, and running backs already have a short lifespan at this point alone. Jonathan Taylor might not come in as healthy as you think he really is. His body's probably already had some wear and tear with as much as he's ran. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, a guy that I think a big part of him being successful was because of his offensive line. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I really do like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but I don't know if he's the best running back on the board. And I wouldn't think of taking him before I took DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift, he had a good O-line at Georgia. Obviously, running behind Andrew Thomas is going to be fun, but with DeAndre Swift, you're able to get a little bit of competition in the running back room with Damian Williams. DeAndre Swift, he can make some plays out of the backfield. He can catch the ball, make those into big plays. He's not necessarily the fastest guy, but DeAndre Swift, I think he'll be a very solid pickup to put next to Patrick Mahomes and that already elite Kansas City offense unit. Anyways, I want to thank you guys for listening to the very first Forward on Sports podcast. This was my mock draft. Hopefully you guys stayed to the end. I hope you all enjoyed. I will be back on Friday to break down the entire first round and give you my opinions on that. Anyways, thank you guys for listening. I will see you guys next time.